The alley is a trap and she knows it. Shadows cling to the damp brick walls, swallowing the faint light from the street. Her breath catches sharp and shallow as footsteps echo closer. Too close. She's crouched behind a stack of crates, her heart hammering the jagged stone in her hand. Her only defense. She's been running for so long from what she can't even name anymore. And now she's cornered, nowhere left to go. The air smells of stale beer and rot, and the cold seeps through her frayed dress, chilling her to the bone. This is it, she thinks. This is where it ends. But then the footsteps stop, and a voice cuts through the darkness, low and rough like gravel. You shouldn't be here. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Buckle up because we're diving into a story that'll grip you tight and won't let go. It's about a woman with no husband, no name, no place to call home until a man feared by many changes. Everything. This isn't just about survival. It's about finding yourself in the quiet moments where words don't need to be spoken. So grab a drink, get comfy, and let's step into her world. She's young, mid-20s maybe, but her eyes carry a weight far older. Dark, hollow like hope's been wrung out of them. Her hair, once a rich brown, is matted, tucked under a threadbare scarf. Her dress is faded, the hem torn, and a tattered shawl clings to her shoulders like it's all that's holding her together. A faint bruise marks her cheek, not from a fall but from someone's cruelty. She stepped off a train hours ago into a Midwest town, forgotten by time, with no bag, no plan. Just the ache in her chest, and a flicker of hope that something better exists. Can you imagine it? Stepping into a strange place. Nothing but the clothes on your back, no one to turn to. We've all felt lost after a breakup, a dead-end job, or when you're not sure who you are. But her loss cuts deeper. She doesn't even have a name, not one she'll share. Maybe she left it behind with whatever life she fled. Or maybe it never felt like hers. All she has is that faint spark driving her forward. The town is bleak, clapboard buildings sagging a dirt road cutting through the center. Shop windows are dark signs peeling, the only sounds are a distant dog's bark and a saloon door creaking in the wind. It's a place where everyone knows everyone and strangers like her are invisible or worse, noticed. She feels the stares, a shopkeeper on his porch, a woman behind a curtain. They don't speak, but their eyes do, marking her as an outsider. Hunger gnaws at her, a sharp twist in her gut. She hasn't eaten in days. She stops at a general store, its lantern casting a faint glow. Pushing open the door, the bell jangles harshly. The man behind the counter, weathered and suspicious, eyes her warily. She asks for work, sweeping, stocking, anything. Her voice soft but steady, rehearsed. But he cuts her off. You got a name, he demands. She freezes, lips parting. No sound coming. It's not that she won't answer. She can't not, safely. The silence stretches and his eyes narrow. No name, no work, he says, dismissing her like she's nothing. That moment stings, doesn't it? Pouring your last bit of strength into asking for help, only to be rejected because you don't fit their mold. This world isn't built for her. A woman without a husband, a name, a story to tell. She's invisible. The cold bites as she steps out, pulling her shawl tighter. Fighting tears she can't afford to shed. She drifts to the town's edge where a narrow alley behind the saloon offers shelter from the wind. It's dark, damp, reeking of decay. But it's all she has. She sinks against the wall, knees to her chest, the cold ground seeping through her dress. Her breathing is uneven, the saloon's distant hum, her only company. She's not safe, but it's a refuge for now. She grips the stone, her lifeline, as voices and footsteps pass her, heart racing until they fade. Then the air shifts, a prickle at her neck. A shadow looms at the alley's mouth, tall, broad, blocking the light. She scrambles up, stone in hand, heart pounding. Who's there? She whispers, defiant, despite her fear. The man steps closer, his face half hidden under a low hat coat flapping in the wind. You shouldn't be here, he says, his voice a low warning, not a threat but heavy with meaning. She holds her ground. I don't have anywhere else, she snaps, raw truth slipping out. He studies her eyes, piercing, seeing her in a way that's neither kind nor cruel. Recognition maybe of shared nowhere. I'm not gonna hurt you, he says, calm, certain. Come with me. It's not a question. She hesitates. Instincts screaming to run, but exhaustion and a spark of hope win. Why, she demands. He pauses, then says, You're not safe here. Not tonight. His tone hints at unseen danger. She doesn't know he's Jack Grady, A man whispered about in town, feared and respected. She only knows he's offering a way out. Lowering the stone, she steps forward, boots crunching gravel. He nods and they leave the alley. The town watching silent. She's moving towards something, not just away, and that's enough for now. The night is quiet as they leave the town behind. The only sounds are the crunch of their boots on the gravel and the faint whistle of the wind cutting through the open fields. The woman keeps her distance from Jack, a couple of steps behind her eyes, darting to the side every so often like she's mapping out an escape route just in case. She's not sure what to make of him yet. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with a kind of stillness that feels both calming and unnerving, like a lake that's too deep to see the bottom. His coat flaps softly as he walks, and his hat casts a shadow over his face, making it hard to read him. He hasn't said much since they left the alley, just a gruff "This way" when they turned off the main road. She doesn't ask where they're going. Part of her doesn't want to know. Part of her is just grateful to be moving. The road stretches out into the darkness, flanked by fields of tall grass that sway like waves in the moonlight. It's beautiful in a lonely sort of way, the kind of beauty that makes you feel small and insignificant. She pulls her shawl tighter around her shoulders, the cold biting at her fingertips. Her stomach growls a sharp pang that she tries to ignore, but it's been days since she had anything substantial, and her body's starting to betray her. She stumbles just a little, her foot catching on a rock, and Jack glances back. His eyes meet hers for a split second, and there's something in them, concern maybe, or just curiosity. He doesn't say anything, just slows his pace slightly, giving her a chance to catch up. You ever notice how some moments, the ones that seem so small, can carry so much weight? That glance from Jack, it's not just a look. It's a question, a silent. Are you okay that she's not ready to answer? She's spent so long keeping her guard up, building walls around herself, that even a flicker of kindness feels like a threat. But there's something about him. Something in the way he moves, the way he doesn't push her to talk, that makes her think he might understand that. Not that she trusts him. Not yet. Trust is a luxury she can't afford. They walk for what feels like hours, though it's probably less. The road starts to climb the ground, turning rocky underfoot, and the fields give way to a scattering of trees, their branches gnarled and bare. The air smells different here, sharper like pine and earth. She's tired, her legs heavy, but she keeps going, driven by some stubborn spark deep inside her. Finally, they reach a clearing, and there it is, a cabin tucked against the side of a low hill. It's small, sturdy, made of logs weathered by time and wind. A faint glow spills from the windows, warm and inviting, and a thin trail of smoke curls from the chimney. It's not much, but to her it looks like a dream she didn't know she was allowed to have. Jack stops at the door, turning to face her. "This is it," he says, his voice low, like he's not sure she'll follow him inside. She hesitates, her hand tightening around the frayed edge of her shawl. This is the moment, isn't it? The one where she decides whether to keep running or take a chance on something new. Her heart's pounding, her mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. What does he want? Why is he doing this? But then she thinks about the alley, the cold ground, the eyes of the town that looked right through her. She's got nothing left to lose. She nods just once, and he pushes the door open. The warmth hits her first, a wave of it that makes her realize just how cold she's been. The cabin is simple, almost sparse, but it's clean, and there's a fire crackling in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the walls. There's a wooden table, a couple of chairs, a narrow bed in the corner covered with a quilt. A shelf along one wall holds a few books, a tin cup, a knife with a worn handle. It's a man's space lived in, but not cluttered, like every item has a purpose. She stands just inside the doorway, unsure of what to do, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Sit," Jack says, nodding toward the table. It's not a command, but it's firm, like he's used to being listened to. She moves slowly, her body stiff, and lowers herself into a chair. The wood creaks under her weight, and she feels out of place, like she's intruding on something private. Jack doesn't sit. He crosses to a small stove in the corner, pulling a pot from a shelf. She watches him, her eyes tracking every movement, the way his hands are steady as he fills the pot with water, the way his shoulders relax just a fraction when he's focused on a task. He's not what she expected. The town whispered about him like he was a ghost story, a man who kept to himself and didn't take kindly to strangers. But here in this quiet cabin he seems human. He sets the pot on the stove, then pulls a loaf of bread and a small wedge of cheese from a tin box. It's not much, but to her it's a feast. Her mouth waters and she has to look away, embarrassed by how badly she wants it. Jack notices, of course he does, but he doesn't say anything. He just cuts a thick slice of bread, sets it on a plate with the cheese, and slides it across the table to her. "Eat," he says, and it's softer this time, almost gentle. She hesitates, her pride warring with her hunger. She doesn't want to owe him anything, doesn't want to be in his debt. But her body makes the choice for her, and she reaches for the bread. Her hands trembling as she tears off a piece. The first bite is like a miracle. The bread is dense, slightly stale, but it's warm from the fire, and the cheese is sharp and creamy. She eats slowly, savoring every bite, aware of Jack's eyes on her. He's not staring. Not exactly, but he's watching, like he's trying to figure her out. She doesn't meet his gaze. She's not ready for that yet. Instead, she focuses on the food, on the warmth spreading through her, on the way the fire pops and crackles in the background. For the first time in days, she feels something close to safe. Let's talk about that for a second. Safety, it's one of those things you don't really appreciate until it's gone. Most of us take it for granted, right? A warm bed, a locked door, a place where you can let your guard down. But for her, safety has been a stranger for so long that even this moment, this simple meal in a stranger's cabin, feels like a gift. And yet she's not naive. She knows this isn't a fairy tale. She knows men like Jack don't just help people out of the goodness of their hearts. There's always a price, even if it's not spoken out loud. She's just not sure what his is yet. When she's done eating, she pushes the plate away, her stomach full but her mind still racing. Jack hasn't eaten, hasn't even sat down. He's leaning against the wall now, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on the fire. The silence between them is heavy, but it's not uncomfortable. It's like they're both used to it. Like they've both spent too much time alone to need words to fill the space. Finally, he speaks, his voice cutting through the quiet. "You can stay here," he says, not looking at her. For now, her heart skips a beat. Stay here with him. A dozen questions flood her mind, but she only asks one. Why? Her voice is sharp, almost accusing, like she's daring him to give her a reason she can't trust. He doesn't answer right away. He just keeps staring at the fire like he's seeing something in the flames. "She can't. Because you need it," he says finally. And there's a weight to his words, a truth that hits her harder than she expects. He's not wrong. She does need it. But needing something and accepting it are two different things. She doesn't say yes, not out loud, but she doesn't leave either. "That's enough for now." Jack nods like he expected as much and points to the bed in the corner. "You take that," he says. "I'll be fine." She starts to protest. She's not about to take his bed, but he cuts her off with a look, one that says arguing won't get her anywhere. So she nods, her throat tight, and moves to the bed. The quilt is soft under her hands, worn but clean, and when she lies down, the mattress sags just enough to feel like it's holding her. She doesn't expect to sleep. Not really. But the warmth of the cabin, the crackle of the fire, the steady rhythm of Jack's breathing as he settles into a chair by the hearth. It all pulls her under, and for the first time in weeks, she dreams. The next morning, she wakes to the smell of coffee and the soft light of dawn creeping through the windows. Jack's already up, standing by the stove, his back to her. He's made breakfast: more bread, a couple of eggs, a strip of bacon. It's simple, but it's more than she's had in a long time. They eat in silence. The only sound is the clink of tin cups against the table. She's still wary, still waiting for the catch. But there's something about the quiet routine of the morning that feels normal. Like this could be a life, not just a moment. After breakfast, Jack hands her a broom and a rag. "If you're staying," he says, "you'll work." It's not a question, and she doesn't mind. Work is something she understands, something she can control. She spends the day cleaning the cabin, scrubbing the floors, dusting the shelves, mending a tear in the quilt. It's hard work, but it's honest, and it gives her something to focus on besides the questions swirling in her head. Who is Jack? Why does he live out here so far from town, and why her? Why did he choose to help her? As the days turn into weeks, a rhythm starts to form. She cleans, cooks, tends to the small garden behind the cabin. Jack chops wood, hunts, fixes things that need fixing. They don't talk much, but they don't need to. There's a kind of understanding between them built in the quiet moments. Her passing him a cup of coffee, him leaving a pair of boots by the door when he notices her old ones are falling apart. It's not friendship, not yet, but it's something real. But let's not get too comfortable, because this story isn't about settling into a cozy routine. There's more to Jack than he's letting on, and the town they left behind isn't done with them yet. One afternoon, as she's hanging laundry on a line outside the cabin, she hears the sound of hoofbeats, distant but unmistakable. Her heart sinks. She knows that sound. It's not just a visitor, it's trouble. And when she turns to look at Jack standing in the doorway with a rifle in his hand, she knows he feels it too. The air feels heavier now, like it's holding its breath. The woman stands frozen, a damp shirt still in her hands, the laundry line swaying gently behind her. The hoofbeats grow louder, closer, a steady rhythm that sets her heart racing. She's heard that sound before, not here but in other places. Other moments when she had to run. It's the sound of men who think they own the world, who take what they want without asking. She drops the shirt into the basket at her feet, her eyes flicking to Jack. He's in the doorway of the cabin, his rifle resting against his shoulder. His face unreadable, but his body tense like a coiled spring. He doesn't look at her, doesn't say anything, but the way he shifts his weight tells her everything she needs to know. Whatever's coming, he's ready for it. She takes a step toward the cabin, her boots sinking into the soft earth. The hoofbeats stop, and for a moment there's nothing but silence, the kind that makes your skin prickle. Then a voice cuts through the quiet, sharp and authoritative. "Jack Grady," it calls, and there's no mistaking the tone. It's not a greeting, it's a demand. She reaches the porch just as a man rides into the clearing, his horse kicking up dust that glints in the late afternoon sun. He's older, maybe in his 40s, with a lean face and eyes that don't miss a thing. His badge gleams on his chest, catching the light, and the word sheriff is etched into it like a warning. Behind him, 2 other men on horseback linger, their hands resting on the grips of their revolvers. The sheriff, Eli Burns, though she doesn't know his name yet, dismounts with a practiced ease, his boots hitting the ground with a thud. He's not tall, but there's a weight to his presence, like he's used to being the biggest man in the room even when he's not. His eyes sweep over the cabin, the garden, the laundry line, and finally land on her. She feels it like a physical touch, that gaze cold and assessing, stripping her down to nothing. She wants to shrink, to disappear, but she doesn't. She lifts her chin, meeting his stare, and something flickers in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or irritation. "Afternoon." Sheriff Jack says, his voice calm but edged like a blade wrapped in cloth. He steps out of the doorway, the rifle still in his hands but pointed at the ground. "What brings you out this way?" There's no warmth in his tone, no invitation, just a question that feels like a challenge. The sheriff doesn't answer right away. He takes a step closer, his spurs jingling softly, and glances at the woman again before turning back to Jack. "Got a report," Burns says, his voice clipped. "Folks in town say you've got a woman here. Say she ain't been seen since you took her from the alley a few weeks back." The words hang in the air, heavy and accusing. The woman's stomach twists, a cold knot forming. Took her. That's what they think. That Jack dragged her out here against her will, that she's some kind of prisoner. She wants to speak to set the record straight, but her throat feels tight, like the words are stuck there. Jack doesn't flinch, doesn't even blink. "She's here," he says simply. "She's free to leave if she wants." Burns raises an eyebrow, his lips curling into something that's not quite a smile. "That. So." He turns to her, his eyes narrowing. "What's your name, miss?" The question hits her like a slap. Her name. It's the same demand she's faced before in the general store in other towns. Other moments when she had to prove she was someone worth acknowledging. She opens her mouth but nothing comes out. Not because she's afraid, but because she's tired. Tired of being asked to define herself by a word that doesn't feel like it fits anymore. Jack shifts just slightly, drawing the sheriff's attention back to him. "She doesn't need to answer you," he says, his voice low but firm. There's a tension in the air now. A current running between the 2 men, like they're sizing each other up. Burns doesn't back down, but he doesn't push either. Instead, he takes a step back, his hands resting on his hips close to his holster. "Folks are worried, Grady," he says. "A woman like her alone, no family, no name, disappears with a man like you, tongues wag. You know how it is. A man like you." The words linger, sharp and deliberate. The woman catches the way Jack's jaw tightens, the way his fingers flex around the rifle. There's history here. Something unspoken, but heavy. Something that makes the sheriff's words more than just an accusation. She doesn't know what it is, not yet, but she feels it like a storm gathering on the horizon. "Let him wag," Jack says, his voice steady. "She's not your concern." Burns studies him for a long moment, then nods like he's made up his mind about something. "We'll see about that," he says, turning back to his horse. He mounts up his men, following suit, but before he rides off he looks at her one last time. You change your mind. Miss, you know where to find me. And then they're gone. The hoofbeats fading into the distance, leaving only dust and silence behind. She lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, her hands trembling as she grips the edge of the porch railing. Jack doesn't move, doesn't lower the rifle. Not until the sound of the horses is completely gone. When he finally turns to her, his eyes are darker, like there's something he's holding back. "You all right?" he asks. And it's the first time he's asked her that directly. She nods, but it's automatic, a reflex. She's not sure if she's all right, not really. The sheriff's visit has stirred something in her, a reminder that the world outside this cabin hasn't forgotten her or what she represents. Let's pause here for a second. Can you feel that? The way the air shifts when someone tries to take away your choices to define your story for you. That's what's happening to her right now. She's finally found a place where she can breathe, where she's starting to feel like she might belong. And here comes the sheriff, acting like she's a problem to be solved, a damsel who needs rescuing. But she's not like that. She's something else, something stronger, even if she doesn't fully see it yet. And Jack, he's not just protecting her, he's protecting something else, something tied to his own past. What do you think it is? Let's keep going and find out. Inside the cabin, the mood is different now. Heavier, Jack sets the rifle against the wall and moves to the stove, busying himself with making coffee, but his movements are stiffer, like he's trying to shake off the weight of the sheriff's words. She watches him, her mind racing. She wants to ask about the sheriff, about what Burns meant by a man like you, about why Jack's out here so far from town, living like he's trying to outrun something, but she doesn't. Not because she's afraid, but because she knows what it's like to carry a past you're not ready to share. Instead, she picks up the broom and starts sweeping, the familiar motion grounding her, giving her something to focus on. The days that follow are quieter, but not in the same way they were before. There's a tension now, a sense that something's been set in motion that can't be stopped. She notices things she didn't before. The way Jack's eyes linger on the horizon when he's chopping wood, the way he keeps the rifle closer than he used to. And then there's the box. It's small, wooden, tucked on a shelf above the hearth, half hidden behind a stack of books. She's seen it before, but never paid it much attention until one evening when she's dusting the shelves and her hand brushes against it. It's heavier than it looks, and there's a faint carving on the lid. A name maybe, or a word worn smooth by time. She doesn't open it. Something tells her it's not hers to touch. But when she turns, Jack's standing in the doorway, his face unreadable. "Leave it," he says, his voice low but not angry. She nods, setting the box back carefully, and the moment passes, but it lingers in her mind. That box, that name. It's a piece of him, a piece of the story he's not telling. And for the first time, she realizes she wants to know it, not just because she's curious, but because she's starting to care. Life in the cabin continues, but it's different now. She's not just surviving anymore. She's building something, even if it's small. She plants seeds in the garden, mends clothes, learns how to make bread that doesn't turn out like a rock. And Jack. He's there, always there. Not hovering, but present, like a shadow that doesn't crowd her, but doesn't leave her alone either. They still don't talk much, but the silence between them is changing. It's not just empty anymore. It's full of things, unsaid things they're both starting to feel, but aren't ready to name. One night as they sit by the fire, she notices something new. Jack's hands, usually so steady, are restless, fidgeting with a piece of wood he's been carving. She watches him, the way the firelight catches the lines of his face, the way his eyes seem far away. "You ever think about leaving?" She asks, the words slipping out before she can stop them. He looks up, surprised, and for a moment she thinks he won't answer. But then he sets the wood down, his hands stilling. "Used to," he says. "Not anymore." There's a weight to his words, a story she can't see but can feel. She investors in her, the ache in his voice. It's enough to make her wonder what he's left behind. She doesn't push, doesn't ask for more. But that night, as she lies in bed listening to the crackle of the fire, she thinks about what he said. Not anymore. She wonders what changed for him, what made him stay. And she wonders if she's starting to feel the same way. If this cabin, this life is becoming something she doesn't want to leave. But the world outside isn't done with them. A few days later, as she's tending the garden, she hears it again. Hoofbeats closer. This time, more urgent. Her heart sinks. She knows what's coming. Knows it in her bones. She stands brushing the dirt from her hands and turns to face the clearing. Jack's already there, rifle in hand, his face hard. The sheriff's back, and this time, he's not alone. There are more men, more guns, and a look in Burns' eyes that says he's not leaving without answers. The clearing outside the cabin feels smaller now, hemmed in by the sheriff and his men. Their horses snort and paw at the ground, kicking up clouds of dust that catch the fading sunlight. The woman stands near the garden, her hands still gritty with soil, her heart pounding so hard she's sure everyone can hear it. Jack's in front of her, his rifle held low but ready, his body a barrier between her and the men. Sheriff Burns dismounts his spurs, jingling like a warning bell. He's not alone this time. 5 men, all armed, their faces hard and unyielding. One of them, younger, with a scar across his cheek, keeps his hand on his revolver, his eyes flicking between Jack and her like he's waiting for an excuse to draw. Burns steps forward, his badge glinting. "Grady," he says, his voice carrying that same authoritative edge. "We're not here to play games. Step aside. There's no pretense now, no talk of reports or wagging tongues. This is a demand, plain and simple." The woman feels a chill, not from the air, but from the certainty in Burns' tone. He's not here to check on her. He's here to take her, to drag her back to a world that never wanted her in the first place. Jack doesn't move. "She's not going anywhere," he says, his voice steady like he's stating a fact the world can't argue with. The words hit her hard, not because they're loud or forceful, but because they're hers. He's speaking for her. Yes, but it's the first time anyone's done so in a way that feels like it's on her side. She steps forward just enough to stand beside him, her hands clenched at her sides. She's not hiding anymore. Not behind Jack, not behind silence. Whatever happens next, she's part of it. Burns' eyes narrow, shifting to her. "Miss," he says, his tone softer but no less dangerous. "You don't belong out here. Whatever he's told you, whatever he's promised, it ain't real. Come with us, and we'll get you sorted. Find you a place. A place." The words sound hollow, like a promise made to a child. She knows what he means. A boarding house, maybe. Or a charity ward where she'd be another nameless face scrubbing floors, or worse, all under the guise of being saved. She's seen those places, seen the women who end up there, their eyes empty, their spirits broken. That's not a place, that's a cage. "I'm staying," she says, and her voice surprises her. Clear, strong, like it's been waiting all this time to be heard. The words hang in the air, and for a moment no one speaks. Burns' face hardens, and the young man with the scar shifts his hand, tightening on his gun. Jack's grip on the rifle doesn't waver, but she feels the tension in him, the way his body's poised, ready to act if this goes wrong, and it could. She knows it could. One wrong move, one wrong word, and this clearing could turn into something bloody. Burns takes a step closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You don't know what you're saying," he says. "You don't know who he is." He jerks his head toward Jack, and there's venom in his voice now, a bitterness that runs deeper than duty. "Ask him about his wife, miss. Ask him what happened to her." The words land like a stone in still water, rippling through the silence. The woman's breath catches her mind, flashing to the wooden box on the shelf. The carved name she couldn't quite read. Jack's wife. She feels a pang, not of jealousy, but of something else. Curiosity, maybe, or fear. Not fear of Jack, but of what he's carrying, what he's kept locked away. Jack's face doesn't change, but she sees it, the flicker in his eyes, the way his jaw clenches just for a second. It's enough to tell her Burns isn't lying. Not entirely. There's a story there, one that's shaped the man standing beside her. But she doesn't ask. Not now. Not in front of these men. Instead, she straightens her voice steady. "I don't need to know," she says. "I know enough." And she does. She knows the way Jack's hands are gentle when he sets a plate of food in front of her, the way he leaves boots by the door for her, the way he's never once asked her for anything she wasn't ready to give. That's enough. Burns scoffs, but there's a crack in his confidence, a hint of doubt. He's not used to being defied, especially not by a woman like her, nameless, rootless, someone the world's supposed to overlook. "You're making a mistake," he says, but his voice is quieter now, like he's trying to convince himself as much as her. He turns to Jack, his eyes cold. "This ain't over, Grady. You know that." Jack doesn't answer, doesn't need to. His silence is louder than any threat. The sheriff mounts his horse, his men following, and they ride off, the hoofbeats fading into the dusk. The woman lets out a shaky breath, her knees suddenly weak. Jack lowers the rifle, his shoulders relaxing just a fraction, but he doesn't look at her, not yet. "Go inside," he says, his voice low, and it's not a command but a request, like he needs a moment to gather himself. She nods, her heart still racing, and steps into the cabin. The warmth of the fire greets her, but it doesn't touch the chill inside her, the questions burning in her mind. Let's talk about that moment. Have you ever stood up for something even when every part of you was screaming to stay quiet, to stay safe? That's what she just did. She didn't just choose Jack. She chose herself, her right to decide her own path. And Jack. Did you catch that flicker in his eyes when Burns mentioned his wife? There's a wound there, one he's been carrying alone. This isn't just her story anymore. It's theirs, woven together in ways they're only starting to understand. That night, the cabin feels different, like the air's been charged with something new. She sits by the fire, her hands wrapped around a tin cup of coffee, while Jack stands by the window staring out at the darkness. The silence between them is heavy, not with tension, but with possibility. She wants to ask about the wife, about the box, about the life he had before this cabin, but she doesn't. Not because she's afraid, but because she knows he'll tell her when he's ready, and he does in his own way. He turns from the window, his eyes meeting hers. Her name was Clara, he says, and the words are soft, like they've been locked away for too long. He doesn't say much more, just enough to paint a picture. A woman he loved, a life. They built a fever that took her too soon. He doesn't talk about the pain, but she sees it in the way his hands clench, the way his voice catches on her name. And then he says something that stays with her. I couldn't save her, but I can save you. It's not a promise, not exactly, but it's a truth raw and unguarded. She doesn't know what to say, so she doesn't say anything. Instead, she reaches out her hand, resting on his arm just for a moment. It's not much, but it's enough, a silent acknowledgement of what he's shared, of what they're building. They don't talk about love, don't need to. What they have is deeper than words. Built in the quiet moments, the shared silences, the way they move through the cabin like two people who've always known each other. The days that follow are different, not because anything's changed, but because everything has. She's not just staying anymore. She's choosing this life, this place, this man. She plants more seeds in the garden, learns to carve wood the way Jack does, laughs for the first time in months when he teases her about her lopsided bread. And Jack, he's softer now, not in a way that makes him less, but in a way that makes him more. He tells her stories not about Clara, but about the land, the stars, the life he's carved out here. And she listens, not because she needs to know, but because she wants to. But the world doesn't let go that easily. A week later, a letter arrives, slipped under the door in the dead of night. It's from Burns, a final warning. Leave, or I'll come for you both. She reads it by the firelight, her hands steady but her heart heavy. Jack takes the letter, his face unreadable, and burns it without a word. He won't touch you, he says, and she believes him, not because he's invincible, but because he's hers. She makes her choice that night, not with words, but with action. She takes the wooden box from the shelf, the one with Clara's name, and sets it on the table. You don't need to carry this alone, she says, and it's the closest she's come to telling him. She's all in. He looks at her, his eyes soft, and nods. They don't open the box, don't need to. It's enough that it's there, a part of their story now, not just his. Months pass and the sheriff doesn't come back. Maybe he knows he's lost, or maybe he's just biding his time. Either way, it doesn't matter. The woman and Jack build a life, not a perfect one, but a real one. She never takes a name. Not because she can't, but because she doesn't need one. She's more than a word, more than a story. The world tried to write for her. And Jack, he's not a hero, not a savior, just a man who saw her when no one else did and gave her a chance to see herself. This story teaches us profound lessons about resilience, the power of self-determination, and the importance of quiet strength in the face of adversity. The woman who begins with no name, no husband, and no place to go represents many of us who face difficult situations and feel powerless. However, through her journey, we learn that true freedom comes not from escaping our past, but from choosing our own path and reclaiming our sense of self-worth. Jack Grady, a man burdened by his own losses, offers a different kind of salvation, not through grand gestures or words, but through respect, silence, and allowing space for healing. The message is clear: we don't need to fit into society's expectations to be valued. Sometimes the most powerful decisions we make are those where we choose peace over chaos, quiet over noise, and self-determination over external approval. This story reminds us that even in solitude we can find strength, and by embracing who we truly are, we can create a place for ourselves in this world, without needing to be anyone else.